everybody. Welcome back to the Canyon. Welcome back to another installment in the Quickview series. This one is a tire that, at least as of this recording, I believe you can only obtain in a singular fashion, which is to purchase an axial SCX 10.3 Coyote. This is the Maxxis Trepador from ProLine. Let's see if we can get focus on it up close. ProLine OE. Is that what it says on that side? Yes, it does. ProLine OE. So these are China origin ProLine tires, which on the one hand, bad. We're definitely not gonna see the made in the USA stuck on the sidewall, but also it sure don't feel like G8. It don't feel like G8 to the point where I have got, look at that lug right there. There's a little bit, just a little bit of feather kicked on there from the Quickview. These have touched ground for like 40 minutes total. Less than a battery pack, and they already have a little bit of wear. Which, that's not what G8 does. And it took about 30 miles, my American miles, to show any wear on my G8 Treps on my 16-pound FJ40. So, I mean, obviously we're dealing with something different. Something different to the point of the inexplicable Baggins foams, which would explain why they didn't side hill so good. It is a dual stage, very, very soft on the outside. This is magician's foam. I mean, this is very, 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 very soft. And the inner is very similar to what comes in a Traxxas RTR dual stage. Only the Traxxas outer is not nearly as soft as this one. But the inner has, it's not, you know, it's not an EVA level of stiffness. It's still close cell foam. It's kind of like RC four-wheel drive. What RC four-wheel drive would just put as a whole foam. So that is usable. And I mentioned in one of the other Cornetto Trilogy installments surrounding this tire that you could get yourself some fridge foam, cut a wrap, put it around, then install that over it, and now you have a sort of triple density two-stage. I don't want to cut this piece down because I want to use it for something else. All of the foams out of these had to be, of course, heat gunned off of the plastic wheels because, as I said, I don't think you can buy them. And from the performance that I saw before, I think they should sell them cheaply. So we are going to fit them with some very colorful Canyon custom softs. These are basically triple stage, so they're 2 wraps of fridge foam, and then I had bought fridge foam, or someone sent it in, I can't remember which. Buying your fridge foam off of Amazon can be a risk, because this particular batch had fridge foam that thin, which is not explicitly useful unless you're trying to mount it to a tire that's nearly 5 inches tall. And then in that event, it does become useful. And it allows us to run Canyon Custom Softs, which is what I prefer to run tire tests on. We'll get it to seat in a little bit. And it allows us to run it on an alloy wheel, more specifically our favorite 105. And I am cautiously optimistic about the OE Trepador because they did genuinely well. I could tell where some of the weaknesses were coming from, and it wasn't due to, you know, excessive rigidity of the tire or a compound that isn't particularly grippy. Well, I have learned a thing. I've learned a thing or two. I have G8 Trepadors fitted to 2 vehicles in the Canyon fleet. One weighs 16 pounds and the other weighs 10. And those tires do pretty good. So what they need is a tremendous amount of PSI exerted down upon them but they are also fitted to two vehicles that both have hard bodies and leaf springs, so they're never going to be asked to do as much as a tire in another situation. Now, if this is a third iteration of the ProLine Trep, because we have the Predator. Is there a Predator Trep? Or is it only a GA Trepador? Let's just say that there's only a GA Trepador. Let's say there's one, and then this is going to be the other one. I feel pretty positive about it because this particular Trepador feels more oriented towards rock crawling stuff, and it feels more like they've gotten the C's, compound, carcass, and composition. It feels like they've gotten that more correct. The compound and the carcass feel like they're working pretty well together. Lug composition is outside of their control because this is a Maxxis Trepador. And I have held it up before because it sits here on the rack waiting for the perfect recipient. I have an RC four-wheel drive Scrambler, which does not announce, by the way, that was bubble juice. People always ask. It is the stuff you blow bubbles with. It's a lot easier to apply with a Dauber bottle. I dipped a paintbrush for years and years, and then I finally just bought Dauber bottles. It is literally just bubble juice, and as you can see, it definitely makes it easier to mount a tire, particularly ones that get grabby on the ring. The Trepador and the Scrambler. I don't think anyone could argue that this tire is definitely inspired by this one. I mean, the sipes are in the same spot, but this is a Scrambler, focus on the Scrambler. This has been, and it's also a Class 1. It's also X2SS. This has been the highest performing tire of the very, like, you could make the same argument that, I mean, a KLR is a lot like a Trepador, but it's not precisely a Trepador. So the Scrambler is the highest current top score holder for Trepadors, because the G8 Trepador scored terribly. It basically scored below the do not buy this tire line. I want to say it's in the 92s, like a 92.8 is what stands out in my mind, because you cannot generate enough ground pressure with a dedicated rock crawler to make those tires work. These tires feel very different from G8 Treps. They are 124 millimeters tall, which is 4 13/16 in America, which is tall, but I mean, it's a 1/16 of an inch above a tire that is listed as 4 3/4, because most tires listed as 4 3/4 are not indeed that. Most 475s are about 4.6, 4.65, and most tires measured as 4.65 are usually around 4.5. So every tire is generally about 1/10 of an inch short, and this guy runs canyon trails every day. And not only does he run canyon trails, he runs canyon trails that have been to the fullness of the feather. That is absolute peak traction for this tire. And measured as 4.65s, these tires are 115 millimeters tall, which is the thickness of the measuring line. It was right, I picked it up and it slid. This was right there. Stop moving. Right there. 4.5 plus about the width of a line. So they're not, most times tires are not what they say they are. I'm only pointing this out because he's gotten some real fender polishing in here done by testing tires for years and years. This tire is one of the taller ones that he has been tasked with testing. So we might get a little bit in the way of pirate ship noises because they're taller and he has the amount of steering throw that he does. we can definitely cause some trouble. I mean, at full lock, that's all the way in. So we will indeed take that into consideration, because these do indeed come OE on a vehicle with a tucked body. So interference between body and tire is going to be less common for a lot of people. And if you're running full fenders like this guy is, this tire is really up towards the top end of how big you want your tire to be. You're really going to want him on something more like a 4.6 or a 4. Something that measures out to a 4.6 or a 4.5. Like, he would be a lot more content just that much down on something like a KLR. So, all that said, 10 stages of the Class 2 tire test protocol. This is indeed a Class 2 tire. I know it measures above 120 millimeters. It measures above 4.75. But around here, we're not that strict, because I still don't regard this as a pure rock crawling tire. This one might try to change my mind about it, but if you're competing somewhere competitive and they stick to the rules, this is a Class 3 tire. So why? You're not gonna. Also, on a portal, questionable. On a straight axle, maybe okay. It's a weird tire, but I have to see what it does when compared against its contemporaries, because the G8 Trepador had been so disappointing until it met the FJ40. So, out to the course, conditions look near perfect. We're going to see how the OE Trepador lands on the leaderboard. And much like our anticipation when buying a log, we hope that it's better than bad. We hope that it's good. We step out onto the course at 70, 2165. As I said, pretty much near perfect. Sun hasn't even hit most of the rock surfaces yet, so we're not going to get a real insight into how the ProLine OE compound does in heat. This is going to be a pretty near perfect situation. Doesn't rub as much as I thought it would. Solid up through the middle. I mean, it is still a weird height. They even say on the sidewall 4.9. I don't 100% understand the 5-inch tall tire at all. Like, we've got LPs, we've got 5 1/4. Makes sense for some builds. You're not putting 5 1/4 on everything. You're not putting 5-inch on a lot of things straight through. We have a possibility of not just the highest scoring Trepador, but the highest scoring ProLine tire currently being made. Like, it's not gonna, like, we got Hammer Chisel Moab, stuff like that way up there. Will these get up there? I don't know. Okay, gonna do a little shuttle right here. Pull to right there. Correct? Yeah. It is surprising. I mean, it really is, that this was the length to which we had to go to get us a ProLine tire, a modern ProLine tire. Real little on the throttle input here. Sidle over. It wants to pull. That's no mechanical right there. And I'm not really feeling too much weirdness from tire going into the link, which it definitely is. Little hops, grab that edge, right over. Yeah. Forward drive wise, it's like a high 9.6. It's not quite a 9.7. We get that big shuttle, we can position, we get it right there. There's just a little bit of fallback. Need a little bit more input, and you can kind of drive to it, but the compound either carrying over some of that Trepador lineage where it needs more PSI on it, and we're only going to be in that like mid upper 5 pound range, sub 3 kilo for sure on baseline. They're doing well, but presented with the amount of weight that they're being presented with right now, high 9.6. So there's going to be station to station rounding, I can all but guarantee. So I would hope for as good of a showing here. We'll do a little bit better on the clearance, because sometimes that few millimeters makes all the difference. I'll tell you this right now. Whatever the compound is, it's not being overserved by the composition. I think they got compound and carcass, I think they got it right. Like this carcass in this thickness, it's not paper thin like an Upgrade RC. It's not paper thin and taffy like a Vanquish Red. We got a little bit of wrinkle on the sidewall back there, but it maintains control. It doesn't feel like it's squidging out, but it is brought down, I think, a bit by the fact that it is a Trepador. You take those paper thin razor wires from Upgrade and you put them against this, the razor wire is going to go harder, particularly on the Upgrade dual stage, which again, then, you know, because I would be speaking in this moment outside of the broader Quickview context. I would be speaking at owners of Coyotes, right? The only people that have these currently. This is a good tire. In terms of an RTR tire, it's really good. Is it as good, someone I'm sure is asking, as a Canyon Trail? I think out of the box traction rivals Canyon Trail. I think the service life is going to be significantly shorter, and I think that the range of fitments are going to be lower. I don't think, like, there's a reason that a TRX4 non-high trail comes with a tire that's about 4.5 inches tall. It's got portals. This vehicle has portals and a tire that is 4 and 13/16 inches tall, which is too tall by, at the very least, 1/4 of an inch. I would go so far as to say 3/8 of an inch. This tire should be 10 millimeters shorter than it is. Again, somewhere in the mid 9.6 range. It's good, but I think it is being ultimately held back by what it is. Which is, ultimately, it is a Trepador, and this tire apparently wants... okay, no, that would be an inaccurate summarization. This tread pattern, this amount of lug to void ratio in that orientation wants more PSI to do its work. I think this is a thing that, to an extent, doesn't accurately translate from the 1/1 world to the scale world, because I have 2 sets of the G8s fitted to trail rigs here, FMS FJ40s, and they respectively weigh 10 pounds and 16 pounds. They are fitted with basically the same insert, and under moments of high traction required, let's say, the 16-pound vehicle becomes more capable than the 10-pound one. In anything lateral, side hilly, stuff like that, then the 10-pound one is a little bit better. I don't think that under a semi-controlled test environment, I don't think we can apply enough PSI to these to get them to where they like to be. And that is not because of the compound. That is not because of the thickness of the carcass. It is because that lug wants X amount of weight applied down across its contact patch. So compound and carcass are doing really heavy lifting here, and the inserts are not hurting. They are responding well to the Canyon Custom here. We are seeing a pretty consistent, this is a solid 9.6 on the side hill. It got a little weird, and I think what we're really seeing, I need the rear end to slide a little bit more right there, okay? When we get to right here, this is a moment that a lot of vehicles have an issue with. That driver rear is fully loaded. That passenger front is basically weightless. It's not doing anything. And the wheel, maybe the combo isn't exerting enough weight to push it back down, but you see right there, did you see the nose start to drive over? That is, in my impression of Trepadors, that tire got happier when it had all of that vehicle load slammed down onto one tire. Because instead of having, say, let's say for easy sake of argument, that the weight distribution is 60-40, that it's got 3 pounds on the front axle and 2 pounds on the rear axle, made up numbers to make things easier. Under that weight transfer, it's probably transferring 75 to 80% of the vehicle weight onto a singular tire. So we're talking about 4 pounds coming down on that one tire. And the Trepador goes, yes, this is what I like. So the Coyote that this comes on is 2, 4, 6, and 16, 2,300 grams, somewhere in there, 2,350 or so. 83 ounces, 5.2 pounds. I had to dig in the mental data mix. This tire is suboptimal for a portal rig that weighs 5.2 pounds. It's definitely suited, I think the starting point is somewhere around 8. So it's a little more difficult than I would like it to be to really get that clear picture of what the tire is actually capable of. It's kind of an odd duck, the height. Classifies as a class 3. If you're ignoring class stuff, then good. Join me in that. Okay, that was a little bit too far right. Okay, give him another bang. Here we go, right here. Okay. Now get me right up the middle. Yeah. Okay. Again, in that high 9.6, for sure, has not shown me anything weak. It's not really lacking. It wants more weight. And that can be beneficial, because when we're climbing like this, when we get sort of up towards the extent, we're getting a lot of weight transfer. So it's putting a lot more pressure on that rear axle. It's a nice hop. Yeah. They're big. They should be able to do that. I would call that one center cut. Like a perfectly middle 9.6. I would call the side hill just above that 9.5 into the 9.6. And prior to that, I had 2 kind of 9.6s. So it's basically 9.6 across the board so far. 4 for 4, 9.6, and I would say like advantage. Like we could round up one of the scores a point, but I'm kind of holding that point back to see if there's something that it just falls apart at. I mean, if we have nothing that really stands out, and we, by extension, have nothing that it's really terrible at, that's great. Consistency is always welcome. I'm in a perfect spot where the sun is just blinding me. Get through. Okay. Not a super pronounced shoulder lug here. It's getting her done. This is a section where if 4 and 13/16 are going to help, it's going to be here. Get over, get over. Little back and up. Got a little spicy, got a little spicy. Yeah, the maneuverability really does feel good. They're kind of sprightly for a tire of the size, and this is a carcass thickness that is probably half that of the G8 Trep. It really does feel very different, and at the same time, it is a series of question marks of all the tires that they chose to make in this carcass thickness, this compound. Why this one? Like, why, like, literally, like, why did Axial decide on the Nitto Trail Grappler for so many things? Why has ProLine / Axial / Horizon said, you know what, the one to go with? Trepador. There's some name recognition on Trepador. I don't get it. This is going to get the roundup point. So a 9.7 here. So we went 6, 6, 6, 6, 7. Little roundup. Just one roundup. It's, you know, it's kind of better than it ought to be. Like, I don't know if I'm going to tell people, hey, keep your eyes open for people selling off their Treps off their Coyotes. Like, I mean, a lot. I feel like there's going to be more than a couple people that are going to run their Coyotes and be like, I don't understand it. It doesn't grip the way I want it to, and it's because the tire wants more weight, and the suspension on that vehicle that is partnered with the tire is ridiculous. Like they did not spring it properly. There's 8.25 pounds of springing on a vehicle that weighs 5.2 pounds. Fully taking advantage of the height right here. Center cut even. Can you get out of it? Nah, kind of got punted a little bit. Honestly, with the ease of soft side right here, real nice, real nice. Now, the foam that comes with them is not going to give you that. They got the sloppy whoppies in there. Now, if you do heat gun them off and stick some fridge foam in there, I think you'll get near to the performance of a Canyon Custom Soft, of what is in those tires right now. You'll get really close. Send me an email. I have a lot of fridge foam. I can get the fellow Coyote owners. I can get you a couple pieces of fridge foam because I don't want you to go out and spend $15 and buy a whole pack. Well, I mean, at the other hand, you take one sheet of it and you cut it up and you put it in your inserts, and you take the other 3 or 4 or 5 sheets that come in the package and put them in your refrigerator. So, you know, you can justify the purchase. You can get that one by your significant other. But if you just want 4 pieces of fridge foam, hit me up and I can probably send you something. It's quite good right there. Quite good. Now bumpability should be pretty decent. You kind of gotta roll it. You kind of gotta roll bump it. It will still hop a bit, but they grab. We can get to where gravity takes over, right? Like we are hanging. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. So certainly at this point, even if we absolutely fall to pieces when the ground is wet, still, it's gonna be the highest performing Trepador. It's gonna be. I'm giving it 9.7 again at Daphne's third there. In terms of bump, I'm gonna give it a 9.7 as well there. So that's 4 6s and 3 7s. We've got self right, and based on the size, size and mass, I thought we were gonna pop a little snappier. We'll go for a catch. Oh, okay. Depending on what it does, Cyclone, it's kind of a modest. Well, this is not where I anticipated the fall off. It will really hold it out. There we go. Like a 9.5. And see how these scores try to even themselves out. A 9.5 erases the 2 9.7s right here, right? Turns them right back into 9.6s. So 6 6 6 6 7 7 7 5. 2 to go. I'm gonna go ahead and guess we're gonna be somewhere in the 96s. Our penultimate stop at the sun-dappled goodness of Teardrop. It's shaped like a teardrop. If you could see it from the top, we should have some measurable advantage from that 4 and 13/16. It is definitely better suited to a straight axle. I can see an application for this tire. I don't know if the Coyote is it. It's too light. Baseline also has a wheelbase about 15 millimeters longer than a Coyote. These big tall tires on portals and a short wheelbase, they need more weight and they don't have it. We're gonna solidly land on a 9.6 score, and I genuinely believe that if you're running them on a Coyote, your experience is going to be sub 9.6. And if you're running them on straight axle Phoenix, it's got to be something mixed use, because this would not be my first pick for just rock crawling. This would be a good pick for something that spends time driving to the location, does some crawling, drives somewhere else. Is this ProLine's all-rounder? Yeah, what a thought that is. Now, I don't believe that these need 10 to 16 pounds to function, because they are thinner and significantly softer. But I do think 6.5 probably the bottom end. 3 kilo. You're probably around your starting point. These would be doing better. We would be more consistently into the 9.7s, 9.75s with more pressure on them if they can maintain the same composure at 6.5, 7, 7.5, maybe up to 8 pounds. It is a Trepador from ProLine, and it is just quite very different from the other Trepador from ProLine, and that's great. If this had G8, if we took G8 Trepadors and put them on the Coyote, it would be awful. It would turn it into an absolute skateboard. I just think that the Trepador pattern, the composition of the tire, wants more weight. I thought for a split second we might be able to swing it. Right there, right there. Come on. Pull me. I mean, you can get rowdy, you know. They are so thoroughly like 9.6. They just sit right there. So doing the pre-math, the wet score is legitimately all to play for. Because it's going to determine whether or not this tire is like mid 9.6s. It's going to determine where this tire lands. And I have, as of yet, been unable to get a hold of the OE Compound Baja Pro X from the quote-unquote new Capra. So I've not been able to test the ProLine OE. Now I'm even more curious as to whether or not the OE Compound, does it translate over to the Pro X, because the ProLine Pro X is one of the best of the Pro X, but the Pro X is also not a rock crawling tire. It's not remarkably good at it. It is an all-rounder tire in a weird size, so it's thematic, kind of. Come across. Ooh, that's what I like to, that's what I say, I like it. That went right up. Easy side, easy pass. Come over to the more difficult side. We come across right here. Got to get that skid loose. And there you go. It does not mind it. Not one bit. That is better than G8 and Predator in the wet. Inexplicable things continue to add up with regard to the Trepador in OE Compound. We finish a test and we're left asking questions. Why would you, and I have to paraphrase here, I can't remember the exact wording they used. They say something like that the Coyote, from whence these tires spring, is just ready to scratch your competitive itch, you know, from the box to the comp. But it's a class 3 tire, and if you take a tire this high and you go to that sort of competition, you're probably going to get murdered. You're probably going to get actually murdered. I don't understand why we wouldn't just put a typical size, or if you're going to go through all of the work to make a completely new Trepador, because this one has embossed on the sidewall, you saw it, ProLine OE. That means it's not the same mold that G8 Treps come out of. Infuriatingly, they have the same model number. Just change a digit, my God, what are you actually doing? You can't even sell these then, it occurs to me now. They have the exact same item number on the sidewall, the same hashtag number as a G8 Trepador. But they're clearly not that. 96.3, they could not indeed catch the RC four-wheel drive Scrambler, which sits at a 96.7 now. Do I think you can pass that 96.7 if you have just the right loadout, just the right amount of weight to put just the right amount of pressure on the tire? I kind of do. I think that these tires could hover around a 97. You could get up into the 97 territory, which would put you on par with Injora Klingons, close to the Tusk. But again, you know, in megalithic territory, groundhogs. But at the same time, I mean, I wouldn't. It's going to be so situationally specific that this tire outperforms another. We could take, who did I say, Rock Grabbers and Louis Champs? I ask myself the question. That combo mounted right there, do I think a Champ would do better on a Coyote? Ooh, that's a good question, which may potentially be answered later. I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine with a 96.3. Your results will obviously vary, and I think that the 96.3, you're going to get even lower as that weight. If you're on this stock insert, unmodified, on those plastic wheels, these are like 95 and change. They're an unmodified stock tire. They get better when they get heat gunned off and put onto a proper wheel with an insert that fits the tire better, just like any tire would. So the range of experience that you may get from these, you might think that the ones you have now work better than a 96.3 unmodified on your terrain under your conditions, and that I cannot rule out. That is entirely possible. The score on these is going to be all over the place. It will nevertheless be a question mark tire forever. Why is the Trepador 4 13/16 inches tall? Why is it 124 millimeters tall? Why is it not 118 millimeters tall? Or the 5 1/4 size, why isn't it 131 millimeters tall? Why is it right in the middle? I don't know. Maybe the shadow knows, but I do not know. What I know is that today, that is absolutely a result. Where is that on the leaderboard? That is somewhere around, you're close to the top 25. For an OE tire, we can't be mad. It says OE on the sidewall. That's pretty good. It's better than an unmodified Canyon Trail for sure. It just question marks all around. You might be able to get them for cheap, and you might have an idea of something you have to outfit them to where they would be really good. And if that is the case, aside from unanswered questions about how well are these going to wear, you won't do terrible. It is certainly the best tire that Axial has put on an OE vehicle since the days of the Ripsaw. And this is an R35 compound, so it's not directly comparable. What we did was pretty good. In and or around the top 25 definitely classifies for pretty good, as the worst scoring tire on the leaderboard is somewhere around 92nd. So ProLine / Axial / Horizon, you did pretty good. Cost cutting measures don't always hit us negatively, and they didn't here today. OE Trepador 96.3, pretty comfortable with it. Any questions about it? Of course, questions, comments, all of that into the comments section below. Thanks so much for joining us here. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Baseline's just happy to test a tire that does all of the tire things.